Hi, I'm Rick Kaler. Thanks for joining me. The goal of tariffs, according to politicians who favor them, is to protect American industries. They do this by making foreign goods more expensive. Now, the idea is simple. If foreign products cost more, consumers will turn to domestic options, supporting American businesses and presumably American jobs. What politicians seldom mention is that the added costs are not paid by the foreign companies. They are ultimately paid by American consumers. Let me explain how this works. Tariffs are taxes levied by the U.S. government on imported goods. When an importer brings in a product from overseas, they pay the tariff, not the foreign company. The importers then pass that cost along to retailers, who in turn pass it on to you. Let me give you an example. If a product priced for import at $100 is hit with a $20 tariff, the importer pays an extra $20 to the U.S. Treasury and then adds that cost to the product, which is now priced at $120. The retailer then buys the product from the importer at the new higher price of $120 and adds $20 to the price tag for their consumer. A $20 tariff then on the imported price doesn't necessarily mean a 20% higher price for consumers. Let me give you an example. If the previous retail price for the product was $200, the consumer will now pay $220, which is a 10% increase. The U.S. government benefits by collecting more tax revenue in the short term. However, many economists would argue that the higher prices of imported goods will lower sales and have a long-term negative impact on the broader economy, which indirectly will result in lower taxes collected by the government. While foreign companies don't pay tariffs directly, they may also lose income if tariffs make the imported products too expensive and American consumers buy less and turn to domestic products. So that's the only way it can hurt the foreign companies. However, an unintended consequence of that is when tariffs reduce competition, American companies often raise their prices. And let me give you an example. When tariffs were imposed or imported on washing machines, U.S. manufacturers raised their prices by 12% because they knew consumers had few options. I was initially surprised when former President Donald Trump started imposing higher tariffs in 2016. Having been a Republican for most of my adult life, my worldview was that Republicans opposed tariffs, and they were the party of free trade. When I did some research, I learned that Republicans were actually the original champions of tariffs. For much of the late 19th and 20th centuries, they supported high tariffs to protect American industries. Interesting enough, it's these tariffs that are often blamed for the worsening of the Great Depression. It was called protectionism. As a capitalist with a belief in free markets, I was pretty shocked to find that Republicans once supported protectionism. It was even more surprising to learn that Democrats used to be the free trade party, especially when they represented Southern agricultural interests that relied on exporting crops. As the Republican presidential candidate, Trump has recently proposed widespread tariffs, including 20% on all imports and 60% on all goods imported from China. So that $100 product will now cost the importer $160. If it sold for $200 before, it will now sell for $260. It turns out that this stance is not the GOP breaking from the party's roots. It's going back to a time when protectionism and higher taxes were central to Republican policy. Unfortunately, we don't see many signs that the Democratic Party, which under the current administration kept some tariffs in place, is returning to its roots of free trade. Regardless of the election outcome, tariffs may still affect the prices of some consumer goods. One bipartisan group said the cost will be about $4,000 if the Trump tariffs are enacted. So if you're looking for a new TV or picking up a pair of your favorite brand of jeans, chances are you don't even give a passing thought to tariffs. Yet the prices you pay for either of those products are likely to have been nudged upward by these invisible taxes. Higher tariffs may sound like a win for American jobs and a penalty for foreign producers, yet ultimately, American consumers are primarily the ones who foot the bill.